Hey kiddos, it's your dad here. So, I wanted to talk about how you can actually achieve financial freedom by working a regular job and why starting a business might actually prevent you from achieving that freedom. Now, I know this firsthand because that's how I was able to achieve financial freedom was by working a regular job. I did start businesses and I did have side hustles that allowed me to make some money while I was in the military, but that wasn't the thing that allowed me to achieve financial freedom. It was actually because of some of the things that I'm going to be talking about having a job that allowed me to achieve that freedom that I wanted. So, one of the first things that I wanted to cover, and I'm just looking off for the notes, of course. One of the first things that I wanted to talk about is that most businesses don't actually make money. 65% of businesses, this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 65% of businesses fail within 10 years. Okay, so you might be saying, well, there's a 35% chance that a business will, do well. But that's not really the case. Only 40% of businesses are profitable. 30% are break even, and 30% lose money. So you might be thinking, oh, that's crazy. Like you start a business and you should be profitable. No, many people start businesses and they don't actually make money, they lose money. The average small business profit margin is around 7 to 10%. So what is a profit margin in a business? So let's say if you make $100, 7% profit margin means that you're only making $7 for every $100 that you bring in. So you have your gross profit and your net profit. So your profit margin, like how much are you actually keeping, is 7%. And maybe you still have to pay for taxes. So you might even be left with less in the end of it. So you could be grinding for years only to make as much or less than you would at a job with 10 times the amount of stress. Again, this is something that I know firsthand. After running, several businesses, there was this one business that I was running, and it just we on paper everything was good. We were growing. We had lots of properties. We were expanding. We were taking on investors. We were doing all these things, but I didn't really see that much money from it. Because we were paying for cleaners. We were paying for for the setups. We were paying for this. We were paying for that. And in the end, it's like I'm doing a lot of work for this business, but where's the money? I'm not seeing it in my pocket, And then when you have a business partner, then you're splitting that also. And there's just so many things with a business that it can just add so much stress and so much work to your life, and you're not actually getting paid for it. So that takes me to this other point is that the wrong business can just equal a wasted life. So there's a story that I heard of there was this amazing entrepreneur that he was always coming up with new ideas and very creative and hardworking, disciplined. He was doing everything right, but he was in the wrong business. He was selling newspapers in an age when newspapers were dying and everything was just kind of migrating online. And this guy was coming up with all these creative ideas and trying to start these new partnerships, and he was just trying to sell, and it just wasn't working. He was just break even. He wasn't growing at the rate that he wanted to. Maybe he was making a little bit of money, but it just wasn't. And he felt like he had his skill was greater than, like, he was like, man, there's so many other people that are achieving so much with their businesses, but I'm working so hard and doing so much and coming up with all these new ideas and doing all of these things, but I'm not seeing the success that I feel like I'm putting in. Like I'm putting in the work, but I'm not getting the output that I want. So he found this mentor, and the mentor just said, you're selling newspapers in an age when newspapers are dying. You're in the wrong boat. You should be in an opportunity. He said you're an A+ entrepreneur and maybe a C and a C minus D opportunity. So if your skill is at this level, you should be in an opportunity at that equivalent level to allow you to grow. It's like being a big fish in a tiny pond. You need to be in a bigger opportunity. The challenge with business is that's tough. Again, I know firsthand. When I started my first successful business, which was the Airbnb business, this was 2019. I started, and it was I had the discipline and the hard work with the right vehicle and opportunity. Airbnb was really starting to pick up. I kind of jumped in just a little bit early. I wasn't like super early, but I jumped in a little bit early as the trend was becoming more popular, and I was just really hardworking. And I started making videos about Airbnb, and then we started taking on investors before people were taking on investors for Airbnb. And I was doing all of these new innovative things, but it was the right opportunity at the right time. If I was to try to do this now in mid 2025, it'd be different because there's things have kind of shifted with Airbnb, and there's more regulations and more challenges. People have gotten burnt. The housing market is not the same, so you're not able to get the same amount for your properties. So things have shifted. But at that time, 2019, 2020, 2021, those were good times for Airbnb because prices were really low, regulations were more lax, more people had more money, they weren't as strapped as they are now. So things have changed. So was it all because of me? I mean, I put in a lot of work, but it was the right opportunity at the right timing, and the right opportunity. If I tried doing that now, I could be working so hard and doing all these crazy things, and sure, I might be able to, but I wouldn't have the wind, behind my sails. So there's that. Most businesses, the next point is that most businesses are just a giant sales machine. And if you don't want to just be doing sales all the time, maybe business isn't for you. So I know a lot of these firsthand. Again, coaching, it's just selling stuff. Freelancing, you're selling time. Agency, you're pitching clients. Course creators, you're selling with funnels, you're selling with ads, you're selling with product launches. If you're in e-commerce, you're selling with ads, you're with paid traffic, and probably gonna have slim margins. If you're a YouTuber, that's a whole nother video about trying to become a full-time YouTuber. You're selling attention. So if you don't really enjoy selling, business might feel like it's a betrayal of your values. Some of us want more peace than persuasion. That's something that resonates with me in my life right now. I don't want to be a YouTuber anymore. I just want to run my business. What business is that? I'm as a trader. Because there's no expectation of selling with trading. I'm just trading, and if I want to make content, I can make content, but that's not my business. So that gives me a lot of peace. All right. So now that we talked about some of the negatives of why starting a business does not set you up, and of course I could talk about the things that a business is great for. I mean, the income potential, the potential. It's all about the potential, because when you're working a job, your income is capped. Of course, you have a certain amount, unless you start going for like those executive C-suite type positions. But again, that's there's a you spend a long time to get to that point, and by that point, you are running a business. You're not just working a job. You're running a business. Um, so you're like an entrepreneur on payroll. But of course, you start a business. You the benefits. You can create your own hours. You can work when you want. A little caveat with that is that you're working all the time. So you're working all the time with the business typically, because your time equates to your income potential, and you get stuck in this where you're just working nonstop because you're not making enough, or you keep working because you have to make a little bit more. So that can also be a trap. It's a double-edged sword. And yeah, and you can make more money. I mean, like with my business, like there was months where I was bringing in over 100,000 a month. Um, you know, our property management business was bringing over multi over like 2 million a year. Did I see a lot of that with the property management business? I barely saw anything. I think the business cost me more money. I was one of those entrepreneurs that was it cost me more to run it because we were trying to grow and trying to scale, and things just weren't run efficiently. With the education business, yeah, that was very high profit margins. Um, but again, did I see $100,000 months in my account? No. I mean, it was like there was a few 10,000 months, a lot of less than 10,000 months, and you know, but yeah, just it. So the income potential was there, but again, it was kind of like a bell curve. Things kind of faded off. Um, so, but how do you actually achieve financial freedom with a 9 to 5? One of the big things when I was in the military that gave me a lot of peace, especially when there was a lot of stuff going on in my businesses, was that I could breathe easy knowing that I always had a paycheck coming in. I tell your mom all the time. I'd say, it feels good knowing that there's money coming in, and I could take a break. Like there was some days where it was just like I'm burnt out. Like I need to stop, and I would just stop, and it was okay because like things would keep going. I would still get paid. I'd just show up to work, and that piece is very it's very relieving. Um, you're able to live below your means, so I knew exactly how much I was going to be getting every month. With the business, some months was up, some months was down. Something unexpected could come out and it could cost you money. So it wasn't consistent. It wasn't predictable. Um, and to me, as a person that I I find a lot of peace in knowing in having predictability. Um, that really wouldn't have been healthy for me. So I needed to create that predictability, um, which kind of goes into this other, which is when you have a job, you have benefits. You have typically like a 401k, so you can invest into some retirement accounts. That was really actually helpful for me. With this transition when I left my job um, to being unemployed, retired, not employed, unemployed. Yeah, I'm unemployed. Um, you're able to invest in real estate. So when you have a stable job, you know you you have the income to be able to qualify for a mortgage. So that's what we did when I was in the military. Um, we purchased a property, and they looked at um, my income, and they said, okay, like you make this much, so you qualify for this loan. Um, and that allowed us to purchase our property. And then because I again had the consistent income, I was able to invest into renovating the basement and then turning it into a Airbnb rental, and that allowed us to have consistent income. We were able to save $2,000 a month on our mortgage, over $2,000 a month on our mortgage, because of that. You know, our mortgage is $2,000 a month. That place covers it, just the basement. So that allowed us to save a lot of money, $2,000 a month. Every month we're saving money, and that was because we had a job to be able to qualify for that. Like I mentioned, the 401ks, because I was saving money. Being at our home, I was able to invest more into my retirement account. I was able to save money, more money, put that into the 401k, and I was just throwing money into it, into a Roth 401k, because you want to do Roth over traditional if you can. If you have the means to be able to just dump money into a Roth, that's the best way. You pay the taxes now, you get a tax free later. And then another little secret, kind of not a secret loophole, but it's a strategy is once you throw your money into your 401k, Roth 401k, when you leave your job, or if you stop contributing to it, you can roll over that Roth 401k to a Roth self-directed IRA, individual retirement account, and now you have complete control over this tax-free money, which is a very powerful strategy. It can be dangerous if not used well. I also have experience with that, messing up some retirement account money. But if you're very careful with your risk, it can do well. And yeah, and when you have that job, you know what your schedule is. You have your set time, and then when you want, you can experiment with things. I experimented so much with the job. I experimented with trying new side hustles. I started lots of different YouTube channels. I created a book, about the Coast Guard boot camp. I did lots of different types of affiliate marketing. Got my real estate license and sold the property. I've tried so many different side hustles, and it taught me showed me what do I like, what do I dislike. When you start a business, you can't be all over the place. You have to be laser focused. When I started my business, I stopped doing a lot of things because I was just focused on this one thing. That's another thing too, is like, if you want more freedom in your life, I felt like I was more free in a job than I was when I was doing a business. I know that's counterintuitive, but when I started focusing on business, I started cutting other things from my life because I was just focused on trying to grow my business, and I started neglecting the personal areas of the things that I just wanted to do for me. It was always just focused on, well, I need to grow this business, I need to grow this thing. So I stopped learning Japanese. I stopped working out all the time. It just all became about trying to grow a business, whatever that business was at that time. And so I felt trapped, but I felt, it was like I was trapped, but it was also the thing that I believed would allow me the freedom, because I felt trapped in a job. So I wanted to escape that feeling trapped by starting a business. But it wasn't until I left my job that I realized I'm still trapped. I still have handcuffs. It's just business now. When I left my job, and you know, that's another story. But when I left my job in the military, finally committed after 9 years, we had enough income coming in through real estate and side income, um, and stuff like that, that we felt comfortable enough to be able to, move to Colombia and save money that way. Um, and so I said, okay, well, now that I'm not, our business has slowed down. The businesses that we were running at the time slowed down. I don't have a job anymore. I'm gonna, just grow my business, and so I started doing YouTube full time, because that's what I wanted to do. But I was just working nonstop on YouTube, and I was just like, man, like I'm trapped again. Like all I'm doing is working all the time, and I'm making a little bit of money, and break even. It's costing me money, but luckily it's we're break even. And I was just like, I'm stuck here again. What the heck? So then I had to take a step back after a couple years of doing that, and I realized, like, oh, if I just stopped, we could just kind of live below our means, and I could reflect and find out, what do I really want to do? That would give me the freedom that I was looking for. I kind of digressed from how a 9 to 5, but once you have that freedom, then you can, and if you've kind of built on top of these things, like being able to live below your means, being able to invest the right way, understanding, I'm not saying don't start a business while you have a job. I would highly recommend you do those things, because you don't know until you do them. You don't know until you start and you experience, you feel what it's like to run a business. You try different things and you see, like, what do I like, what do I dislike? Do I want to be a YouTuber full time? Do I want to do drop shipping? Do I want to try to build a website? You don't know until you do all of these things. And then once you do, you realize, is this something that I actually enjoy? And then it becomes, am I going to keep doing this thing even though I don't enjoy it? And those are some of the deeper questions that you'll eventually have to ask yourself. So yeah, sorry, there's some beeping in the background. There's an alarm. Not sure what, but I would highly recommend, if you want to achieve financial freedom, find something that gives you the time, the mental piece. Because again, choosing the wrong job can also affect you in a negative way. Like, in the military, there's this saying, choose your rate, choose your fate. If you choose a job where you're constantly overseas, you're constantly on a boat, you're constantly deployed, you're constantly working, you're constantly in high stress situations, yeah, that's going to affect you in a certain way. Or if you choose a job where you don't gain a lot of skills, or you choose a job where you gain a lot of skills, but maybe it's very siloed, very niche. So these are things that you need to consider. Is like, I think I heard that, I think I saw somewhere that Einstein, when he was working on his theories, believed that he was also working in a library, and he enjoyed working in a library because he got some money to pay for his living expenses, but it gave him the time to think and the time to be able to reflect. It didn't tire him out doing the job. It gave him the space. So that's what I would suggest is if you are going to find something, you know, if there's not like a particular job, unless you really want to do something, like if you really want to do a particular thing, go do it. Do it because that's what you want to do. But if you're not, like for me, like I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Like I didn't say like I really want to just do this thing. I was always kind of indifferent. I always kind of was like, do I kind of want to do this thing? I kind of want to try this thing. So I wanted to find a job that would, be high income, that I was kind of interested in, see if I wanted to do this, but that would also give me the time, and that ended up being IT work. Um, that ended up being IT, like the cybersecurity route in the Coast Guard, and so that checked off a lot of boxes for me. It was a high income skill. When I left the military, I was being offered 6-figure positions. Um, I was interested in IT because I'm very techy and very analytical, so that definitely, I enjoyed that aspect. Um, and then it also gave me the time. Like there was a lot of time where it's just like I had creative time to think. Like there was times where we weren't super busy, so I was able to focus on the business. Um, so so yeah, don't don't feel like you have to start a business to achieve financial freedom. You can do it with a job, even easier than starting a business. But I'm also not saying don't start a business. If that's what you really want to do, if you're just like, no, Dad, you know what? Uh, Great advice, but yeah, I'm gonna go start my kombucha business. Go for it. Do it. I want you to do the things that you want to do. Um, but don't feel, if things don't work out, don't feel bad. Don't feel like you're trapped or that you're a failure. Um, there's a bunch of, as the saying goes, there's a bunch of different ways you can skin the cat, and you're gonna have to experience a lot of things in order to figure out what it is that you really want. Um, life is like a painting. It's like, it. Not all paintings are the same. Not all art is the same. We learn different things through experience, and that influences how this painting develops. So you don't want to just be a copy of somebody else. That's what everybody does. You watch a YouTube video and you say, I'm going to copy them. Life doesn't work that way. We try a bunch of different things. We get a bunch of different experiences, and then we have this unique piece of art, and that's what your life and your experiences is going to be. It could be a job. It could be a business. It could be being a YouTuber. It could be being a trader. Um, whatever you want to do, don't be afraid to do it.